We are making some cuts on our flower farm, and I am not talking about stems this time. I am talking about flowers that we are not going to be growing anymore in 2025. So stick around. I'll tell you all about the varieties that we are going to cut from our farm, the varieties that we're going to replace them with instead, and why we made this decision. So the first flower on the chopping block is Rudbeckia. So I know some of y'all are probably really surprised by that because Rudbeckia is such an amazing flower. It's prolific, it's beautiful, it blooms at a time here in Oklahoma when we really don't have a whole lot of other flowers. But the reality is that I had to make a really personal decision, and I think I'm a little bit allergic to Rudbeckia, and it makes me feel like my skin's on fire when I'm harvesting it, and I can't deal with that anymore. So I did it for 2 years, and then this year I said, enough, I can't grow it anymore. So Rudbeckia, you're out. All right, so one of the things I wanted to tell you guys is if we're cutting a flower, what flower is going to replace it during that time period in your mixed bouquets? So the flower that will replace it will actually be rose lilies. So they bloomed right around the same time for us, and so I think they'll be a great replacement for, not that they look similar, but from a perspective of just having something that's like bright in the bouquet and having a focal flower during the time of the year when we often have a flower gap in Oklahoma. So this will allow us to still have bouquets. I won't be at risk of not having mixed bouquets and having to close our farm stand or not be able to sell at other sales outlets that we may have. We'll still be able to continue selling. I just can't continue to grow Rudbeckia because I can't deal with my skin being on fire. So that is why we're not growing Rudbeckia on our farm anymore. The next flower on the chopping block is Feverfew Tetra White. So I'm going to be really specific about variety here because I'm not completely cutting Feverfew from the farm. I actually really loved Feverfew, that like single Vegmo or whatever that other one's called that looks like the little white daisy. Love that one. However, with Tetra White, and I don't know if any of y'all experienced this, but when I planted it and then I didn't cover it over winter, we had a ton of loss. Like I planted, I want to say like 400 plugs of it. And I think I had maybe 1 or 2 plants by the time spring came. But that just wasn't the case for the other one, the single petaled one. It did beautifully. I didn't cover it either, and it was prolific and beautiful. And we just didn't have plant loss with it. So I guess that kind of tells you what I'm replacing it with. So we'll continue to grow Feverfew, but definitely not Tetra White. It's out. I'm not growing it anymore. It's just not worth it for me to have to baby something over the winter. So that's something y'all probably should know about me. If a plant requires a lot of babying, I'm probably not going to grow it on our farm. There's like a very few things that I want to baby in the winter time. So if it requires me to put a low tunnel up over it in order to grow it in the field, I'm probably not going to be growing it on our farm. I don't mind having to go like open and close the tunnel and take care of like ranunculus or anemones. But for something that's a filler, I'm definitely not going to be going out to the farm in the winter to be uncovering and covering Feverfew. So Tetra White, you're out of here. Okay, so the next flower on the chopping block is actually Foxgloves, which if you've watched any of my videos with Jessie, you know that I love Foxgloves. So let's be clear, I'm not cutting Foxgloves altogether. I still really love them. I love selling them retail and I love selling them wholesale, though they did better for us wholesale. But specifically, I'm going to stop growing Foxy Foxgloves. So I just found for my use that they don't necessarily fit what I need them for. They tend to be a lot like taller and spaced out more, and they just don't fit that like mixed bouquet look that I'm looking for to be able to sell them retail. So I just didn't really like them for us for retail. Now, if I was growing for like garden, I would keep Foxy Foxgloves. They're really pretty. I used to have them in my home garden and I loved it. It was one of my favorite things, actually was Conley's favorite thing in our home garden. But for growing for a cut flower farm and growing for mixed bouquets, I will continue to grow Foxgloves, but I much prefer the Camelot series of Foxgloves for mixed bouquets. I just found that like their little bells are spaced much closer together. Ours weren't necessarily like gigantic, but they were like the perfect size for mixed bouquets. So that is what we're doing. So we cut Foxy from our growing list. It is saying goodbye from our farm, but we will continue to grow Foxgloves, just not Foxy Foxgloves. The next thing we're cutting might make some of you sad to hear because I feel like everyone loves these, but we grew sweet peas for the first time last year. And if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I was like so excited to finally grow sweet peas successfully. But I'll be honest, I just found them underwhelming. I just didn't find that like for the space that they need that I actually cut on them that much, or that they sold that well, or that like our customers just like had to have them. They're just such like a small, delicate bloom that when you're selling retail, it just kind of gets lost in the mix. And then selling wholesale, it's like I sold some of them, but I really sold them more. There's like a Texas farm that I follow that sells them as like vining sweet peas. And so not necessarily just cutting like the sweet pea stem, but actually like cutting the whole vine and selling them that way, which is how I sold them, because the stems just aren't super long. So it can be really tricky in Oklahoma where it gets hot so quick to really get good sweet pea stems. So, and then the issue I had was like when you're selling them as vines, they just don't hydrate well. So then it's like I was dealing with like hydration issues with them wilting. They weren't making a big enough impact in my retail bouquets. So like, yeah, while they're pretty, and I probably would continue to grow them if I had like a home garden, I would probably continue to grow them in a home garden because I think they're really pretty. I just found that for me, I don't necessarily need them. And with that being said, I don't have something that I'm replacing it with. I just cut it all together. Like I just don't find that I really have a need for like a vining flower or a really delicate petite flower like that for our farm, since we do sell a lot of like retail mixed bouquets. I'm sure the florists would love them. I just didn't find that I really could get the stem length that I wanted to be able to like sell them to florists a lot. And when they're blooming, I don't know. They just aren't a good fit for our farm. I didn't cut on them. And that's kind of one thing. If I don't cut on something, I usually will cut it out of the farm, because if I'm not going to cut on it, it's just wasting space and it's not making us money. And so it was one that I just found like I enjoyed looking at, I enjoyed smelling. I didn't necessarily cut on it a whole lot and try to sell them. So for me, they're out. They keep trying to be in because I definitely let them go to seed and they reseeded all over in my high tunnel area. So the weed I've been weeding a lot is sweet peas. I left a few because they're cute, but I have been really trying to weed them out of my anemones because that's where they're trying to grow. So that's fun. Anyways, they are out of the farm though. Okay, and then a flower that I didn't grow in spring 2024, but I thought I was growing for spring 2025 that I think is out is stock. So I planted stock in the fall here for 2025 blooms, but actually it's blooming right now. I could actually go grab it and show it to you. I did have it sitting here, but I made a bouquet for one of our customers, so one of our customers has it now. I have a few stems left in the kitchen though, but while it smells beautiful, and my stem length was actually pretty good, just timing wise, I don't know, like I could try again and I could probably get the timing right. Like I think I learned like, okay, I planted it too early. We could plant it a little later, then it would probably bloom in the spring. Like I should probably plant it like now or, a couple weeks from now, and then we would have blooms in the spring. But I guess for me, after growing it, and if I compare it to like a spring snapdragon, I just don't feel like stock is that much greater than a spring snapdragon, and snapdragons grow really easily, and I just feel like we'll just grow snapdragons instead of stock, and then it's just one less crop that we're having to deal with trying to get the timing right. So we'll see. I may grow it one more time, but I don't think so. I'm definitely not going to replace the ones that we have. We did have like a lot of loss in the stock that we did plant, because it's just been so like, it was so warm right after we planted them that it didn't like it. So I'm pretty sure that stock is getting the cut from our farm and we won't be continuing to grow it. All right, and then the last one that's for sure a cut, but don't leave yet after you hear me say this, because I'm going to talk about some that are on their way out, but probably not out yet, but they're definitely like maybes. So for the last one that we are for sure cutting is yellow dahlias. Yellow dahlias we will not be continuing to grow on our farm, and here's why. So the dahlia that we grow that's yellow is called Tyrell, and it's more of like a peachy yellow, though like some of you will be like, Jordan, that's not true, but let me explain. So it can kind of look like a fluorescent yellow if you grow in a climate where it's much cooler than it is here. But in our hot Oklahoma climate, it ends up kind of looking like a real peach, light yellow. It's like a light yellow mixed with peach. Maybe I can pop a picture up on the screen of what it looks like here. And then in fall, it does kind of start to go, like towards the end of fall, it'll go more fluorescent. And I'll be honest, I really like this dahlia. It's really pretty, it's beautiful, it's unique. But my issue is like, it just does not produce enough blooms. And this is my second year trying to grow it, and it does not make the cut. The bloom production on it is just so minimal. So it's out. And the thing is, and why I feel comfortable with it being out and we're not replacing it, is that we mostly sell our dahlias to florists. And I just find that florists don't really purchase yellow dahlias all that often. So not having a yellow dahlia on our farm is totally fine. And I checked in with our florist just to make sure, like, hey guys, I'm going to cut this one. Are we all okay with that? Do you all want me to try to find a different yellow? And they were all like, no, please just continue to grow more peach and pink. So that's what we'll do. We'll just continue to grow more peaches, more pinks, more tangerines, because that's really the color scheme that they want in dahlias. So yellow dahlias, you are out of here. All right, so now let's talk about some of the ones that are like my maybe on the outs. Like if they don't get their act together, they're getting cut from the farm. So we have a woody shrub field on our farm. So, and someone asked me to make a video about it. So I'll make a video about that another day and talk y'all through all the different woodies that we planted on the farm. But one of them is Wigilia. And I grew Wigilia in our home garden. And I probably had, I don't know, somewhere between like 5 or 10 plants in my home garden of it. And I loved it. And I had like nice, long, prolific stems. And I could cut them and I could put them in the cooler and hydrate them, and they would hydrate well. But for some reason, this year, now that I've like upped our Wigilia to a farm scale, that just wasn't my experience. Every time I would cut on them and I would condition them properly in the cooler, I just still could not get them to not wilt. So the reason I say that they're like maybe on the outs is, one, they're baby plants. This was their first year. So maybe they're just struggling because they're trying to get established. You know, I don't know. We're just going to see. So I'm going to give them one more year. I need to do some research on like what the pruning is for Wigilia. We'll do that this year, make sure that they're pruned properly. And then we'll see that if when they shoot up nice, long, tall stems next year, if we're able to cut from them and get them to not wilt. Time will tell and we will see. So I will follow back up on that, and then you'll have to see next year if we continue to grow them, because I just don't know if they're going to stay on the farm or if we are letting go of them. I will say that it's kind of funny. I'll tell you all a mess up that I had. There was one variety of them that I was like, what is wrong with this variety? Like, it's like 1.5 feet tall. Like, why won't this? No, sorry. It's maybe 1 foot tall. Like, why is this variety not growing? Well, dang it, don't you know that I went and like looked at the variety? I ordered like a landscape variety that only gets like 18 inches tall. So yeah, it's like beautiful and variegated, but like won't ever be able to use it for cut flowers. So those will get dug up from the field and moved to our farm landscape. But I'm going to leave the rest of the Wigilia for the year. We'll see. If we don't end up keeping them, then I'll probably just replace them with more 9 bark, because they were like burgundy foliage. So that would be a good replacement for them, like that or smoke bush. Either one would be a fine replacement for them. So if I don't end up continuing to grow the Wigilia, I'll just dig it and move it to the farm landscape. It'll be beautiful on the landscape if it doesn't end up working for our cut flower production. Okay, and next up that is maybe on the outs, but I am still growing this year, is Sweet William. Now, if we're like looking in other videos, I've talked about this, like when I'm growing, I'm thinking about like what things grow well here, what things do I grow well, what do our customers love, what things fit in the middle of that. So like Sweet William grows well here, I grow it well. I just don't know that our customers love it. So I want to give that like one more year to see if customers love it. And this year I'm hoping to be able to put Sweet William and Ranunculus in together in a bouquet. And when I think about that, it should be like a really good mix together, and it should make my bouquets more profitable. So I just want to see, because it grows really well for me. But I just found last year that like when I tried to sell it, we just didn't have like the best sales that month when we did have Sweet William. Now, I think that's because we also didn't really have a focal flower to go along with it because our Ranunculus had failed. So I want to see, and that's why it's on like my maybe list. Like if this year we do Ranunculus mixed in with it and that still doesn't sell well, then it'll get cut. But for now, we're going to grow Sweet William. I did lower the amount that we're growing this year of it, but there was like a purple color. I can't remember the exact name, but it was so pretty. I loved it. I think it'll be really pretty in mixed bouquets, and it just grows so well here that I really want to continue growing it. So TBD to see if our customers end up liking it in April when it's blooming, and then I will follow back up and let y'all know if it's going to stay on the farm. And the last one that's on my maybe list is Agrostemma. So initially I had said like, Agrostemma, I'm not going to grow it again. And then I started watching more YouTube videos, kind of how it always goes. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll give Agrostemma one more year. There's a little more to it than that. I think that us having a cooler this year will make growing Agrostemma a better experience for me. It just has like a really short bloom window. Like I'm talking like the stuff shoots up, it all blooms in like a 1 or 2 week period, and you're cutting it down and selling it. Well, if you don't have somewhere to like cut it down and sell it like right that minute, then like what are you supposed to do with it? Because then it's like gone the next week. And so mine bloomed like, I want to say like a week and a half before Mother's Day last year. And so it just kind of like missed the timing of when I needed it. So I'm hoping that this year, so I'm giving it one more chance. I'm growing it again. I have it planted at the farm. I'm hoping that if it blooms again, like right before Mother's Day, I can like cut it, keep it in the cooler. And I'll need to do some research to make sure like how long I can hold it in the cooler for. But that's my hope, is I'll be able to like cut it, keep it in the cooler, and then still have it for when I actually need it, rather than like it all coming on at one time and not really having, because like I just didn't find that my retail customers loved it. It was my florist customers that were wanting it more than my retail customers. So, which means that this year, instead of growing like a whole lot of purple, which last year I grew like half purple, half white, and then like a little bit of the Dawn Creek blush. So this year I'm just focused on growing just white. I don't think I did any of the Dawn Creek blush, though if I had any seeds left, I probably did. And I want to say I saved half the seeds, so I might have some of it growing. I just can't remember. But I haven't planted any of the purple yet. I still might do like a little bit of it just to have it a little bit for the farm stand, but I don't know. Agrostemma is just kind of on my like iffy list. So those are the flowers that we are saying goodbye to on our farm. What flowers did y'all cut from your farm? Are you keeping everything that you grew last year? Are you getting rid of some things? It's always fun, and it feels good to say like, all right, I'm done with this flower. I'm not growing it anymore. Because you know what that means. If you say goodbye to a flower, that means that you have more room to add a flower if you want to. So I'll make another video and tell y'all about what flowers we're adding this year. But I will talk to y'all next time. See you in the next one. You want to say hi?
Hi.
Hi, guys. I'm just going to go eat more snackies and watch more YouTube videos while Mommy makes a YouTube video. Yeah. Okay, I'll see you at the end. You'll come back.